Welcome to week 6, question 3. In this question we're going to be looking at average cost and marginal average cost. Okay, so let's look at cost function. C at x. We can find the average cost by dividing the cost function by the number of items, so usually that's x. And we would write that C, the line over x, so that is C at x divided by x, right? We can also take the marginal cost, or find the marginal cost, by taking the derivative. So that would be the cost of producing one more item. And we would write that C prime at x. Now if we're looking for the marginal average cost, we have to take the derivative of the average cost. Okay? So we're going to go back to our average cost function here, and then we're going to take the derivative of that. So we're going to write it with both of these, a line over the top and an apostrophe. So that's going to be your marginal average cost. Okay, so let's have a look at the functions we have, and we're going to go to page 2 here. Okay, so let's look at the question now that we have an understanding of how we find average cost, marginal cost, and marginal average cost. Okay, so the question reads, a hot dog vendor must pay a monthly fee to operate a food cart in the city park. The cost in dollars of selling X hundred hot dogs, I'm going to underline that 100, that's going to be important later on, in a month can be approximated by C at X equal to 200 plus 85X. Okay. So part A says find the average cost function. So again, remember, average cost, you're going to divide the cost function by x. Okay, so let's do that over here. So that's going to be 200 plus 85 all over x. And we can simplify that. It's going to be 200 over x plus 85x over x, which is just 85, right? Okay. And we can actually look at this term 200 over x, and I think it might be easier to write that as a negative exponent. Remember, when we take a power from the denominator and move it to the numerator, we can indicate that by using a negative exponent. So let's see how that would look. C average is going to equal 200x to the minus 1 plus 85. Okay? So that is going to be your average cost function. So the next question, or next part, is B. It says find and interpret the average cost at sales levels of 2,000 hot dogs and 5,000 hot dogs. Okay, so the original question said the cost in dollars of selling X hundred. So we're looking at those terms 2,000, and that's 2,000. Okay? And 5,000 would be 5,000. Okay? So when it says find and interpret the average cost at sales levels of 2,000 hot dogs and 5,000 hot dogs, you're going to be substituting and evaluating at x equals 20 for 2,000 and x equals 50 for 5,000. Okay? So for the average of selling 2,000 hot dogs, we have 95 if we evaluate that correctly, and then we have the average cost at 50, which is 5,000 hot dogs, and that's going to come out at 89. So if we were to interpret that, we could see that the average cost at sales levels of 2,000 was 95, and the average cost at sales levels of 5,000 is 89. So you can see that the average cost goes down at higher sales levels. So now we're looking at part C of this question. It says find the marginal average cost function. So remember, when we find the marginal average cost, we're going from the average cost function and then taking the derivative to find the marginal average cost function. So let's remind ourselves that this is the average cost function in its simplest form. Okay, and now we're going to take the derivative of this function. So we've got this. And again, we're looking at sum and difference. We've got an addition, so these are added together. That's a sum. And we have two terms here. We have a constant, 85, and we have a power, 200x to the minus 1. So we're going to be applying the power rule here. So it's going to be negative 1 times 200 x to the minus 1 minus 1, which is minus 2, and the derivative of the constant 85 is 0, so we're going to be letting that go. And rewriting this again, we've got negative 200 x to the negative 2. And again, if you have a negative power in the numerator, you can put that power into the denominator, and then the negative sign goes away. So let's rewrite that this way, equals negative 200 over x squared. Okay, so that is your marginal average cost function. D asks you to find and interpret the marginal average cost at sales levels of 2,000 hot dogs and 5,000. And again, remember that this question was looking at x hundred hot dogs. So again, if we were going to evaluate that for 2,000, it would be the marginal average cost function at 20 and the marginal average cost function at 50, and we would find that this is negative 0.5 and this is negative 0.08. And interpret, we can see that when you have an increase in sales levels, that your marginal average cost decreases.